When you hear a show tune from the great white way, does a shiver run through ya? Well, we're giving them to ya. Sing hallelujah and shout hooray. Come on along and listen to Broadway to Main Street. USA.
Promises, I'm all through with promises now. I don't know how I got the nerve to walk out. If I shout, remember, I feel free. Now I can look at myself and be proud. I'm laughing out loud. Oh, promises, this is where those promises end. I don't pretend that what was wrong can be right. Every night I'll sleep now, no more lies. Things that I promised myself fell apart, but I found my heart. Oh, promises, they're kind of promises can just destroy your life. Oh, promises, those kind of promises take all the joy from life. Oh, promises, my kind of promises can lead to joy and hope and love. Yes, every night I'll sleep now, no more lies. Things that I promised myself fell apart, but I found my heart. Oh, promises, they're kind of promises can just destroy your life. Oh, promises, those kind of promises take all the joy from life. Oh, promises, my kind of promises can lead to joy and hope and love. Yes,
And that, of course, is the inimitable voice of Dionne Warwick and the unforgettable music of Burt Bacharach. Hello, this is Larry Maslon, your host for Broadway to Main Street here on 88.3 WLIW FM, Long Island's only signature, one-of-a-kind individual Shangri-La NPR station. And I promise you 54 minutes of the most extraordinary music I think the late 20th century heard, certainly the stage versions of that or the narrative versions of that. And we are going to give you a window into the world of Burt Bacharach on film and mostly, of course, on stage. Well, as you may know, as you sadly know, Burt Bacharach left us at the age of 94 during, I guess, the beginning of the second week of February. And there have been encomiums pouring in everywhere, including a piece I wrote for the New York Times about Promises, the show we're going to hear today. And I thought I'd take a look not at his pop hits, which were enormous and decades-running success with Hal David, his major lyricist, but the shows he did or the projects he did that required narrative. We'll see one TV show, listen to one TV show, one Broadway show, and one film musical. So Bacharach and David had teamed up for decades, or at least a decade or so, and many, many pop hits, Walk On By, Alfie, The Look of Love. And in 1967, they did a television show on prime time called On the Flip Side, about a rock musician trying to reclaim his career. And it starred Rick Nelson, formerly known as Ricky Nelson, from Ozzie and Harriet. And they wrote some good songs. Unfortunately, the other people who sing in the show, other than Rick Nelson, are not very good. But here's a song that had some life after it, sung on primetime on the show On the Flip Side. Music by Burt Bacharach.
They say men are such fools, and a woman must forgive them. I know I was wrong. Forgive me, won't you give me one more chance? Take a broken heart, make a broken heart smile again. I'm in love with you, say you love me too, and take my arms, take my lips, take my tears away, and love me. Come back to my arms, believe me, if you leave me, I will die. Take a broken heart, make a broken heart smile again. I'm in love with you, say you love me too, sweetheart. Come back to my arms, believe me, if you leave me, I will die. Take a broken heart, make a broken heart smile again. I'm in love with you, say you love me too, sweetheart.
Well, it was only a matter of time before Broadway claimed Burt Bacharach. He lived in California. He didn't really want to go to New York, but David Merrick and Neil Simon convinced him. It wasn't terribly hard because the adaptation was so good, to do a musical version of Billy Wilder's film The Apartment called Promises, Promises. And when he eventually got to New York, Bacharach rethought the whole Broadway scene. There was no way it was going to sound like Tin Pan Alley, not when Burt Bacharach was around. So he composed this very adventurous score, very contemporary, set in New York in 1968, and he rethought the whole way the pit was going to sound, the singers were going to sound, and what better way to introduce you to that sound than the overture to Promises, Promises. Well, I'm just ready for a great show, aren't you? And Promises, Promises was one of the most interesting shows, certainly of that era. It opened on December 1st, 1968. And Bacharach and David had the same problem every songwriter had for Broadway, which is how do you tell a story with characters and move it forward and get inside their heads and articulate their personalities through music. This is from the 2010 revival, with Sean Hayes, who's coming back to Broadway this season, and Christian Chenoweth. And it's where this Schmendrick accountant, played by Sean Hayes, Chuck Baxter, meets Fran Kubelik, the elevator operator, for whom he has an enormous crush. And you can hear, even in the music, that it's going to be a while before they're going to get together.
I could take up knitting to feel better. I'd make someone a hand-knit sweater. But I just don't know who that someone should be.
If you can't think of anyone else, how about maybe someone like, for example, perhaps someone, or you'll think of someone.
I could take up tennis to relax me. A game of doubles wouldn't tax me. But I just don't know who my partner should be.
If you can't think of anyone else, how about maybe someone like, for example, perhaps someone, or you'll think of someone who likes you and the things you like to do. Happy little things like climbing hills and rowing boats on a lake. Fun is something that is yours to take.
I could take up painting to amuse me. A portrait picture might enthuse me. But I just don't know who my model should be.
You can bet that there's someone around,
someone to talk to, laugh with, like, for example, dance with, sing to.
When you think about that someone who it could be, how about me?
Go while the going is good. Knowing when to leave may be the smartest thing that anyone can learn. Go. I'm afraid my heart isn't very smart. Fly while you still have your wings. Knowing when to leave won't ever let you reach the point of no return. Fly. Foolish as it seems, I still have my dreams. So I keep hoping day after day as I wait for the man I need, night after night, and I wish for a love that can be. Though I'm sure that no one can tell where the wishes and hopes will lead. Somehow I feel there is happiness just waiting there for me. When someone walks in your life, you just better be sure he's right. 'Cause if he's wrong, there are heartaches and tears you must pay. Keep both of your eyes on the door, never let it get out of sight. Just be prepared when the time has come for you to run away. Sail when the wind starts to blow. But like a fool, I don't know when.
Well, that was the studio recording of Knowing When to Leave, a great ballad from Promises, Promises, sung by Dionne Warwick. And Bacharach, who is such a smart dude, had Warwick record Promises, Promises, and Knowing When to Leave in the studio for a 45 single release 2 months before the show opened on Broadway. So everybody knew that music coming into the theater. That is a great ballad. And he did things for the single he felt were too complicated for 8 times a week on Broadway. And you hear that great play out, which you don't hear in the show, which is sort of like the music. The song doesn't know when to leave. Oy, that's Burt Bacharach for you. Well, one of the accomplishments and groundbreaking innovations he produced, along with Jonathan Tunick, who was the fantastic orchestrator, was to create voices in the orchestra pit known as orchestra voices. They were an instrument on their own for very talented ladies. Let us hear the instrumental song Grapes of Wrath, named for a Upper East Side watering hole by the funny Neil Simon. Anyway, here is the nonverbal music of Burt Bacharach.
It's turkey time. Tom Turkey ran away, but he just came home. It's turkey time. He's really home to stay, never more to roam. Let us make a wish, and may all our wishes come true. A snowy, glowing Christmas, a mistletoe-y Christmas, a turkey Christmas to you. A turkey Christmas to you. It's Goosey time. She was a gadabout, but she's back again. It's Goosey time. Her time is
What a great way to close the curtain. I probably had a curtain back then at the end of Act 1 of Promises, Promises. This is Larry Maslon, your host for Broadway to Main Street, and we're spending an hour recognizing the tremendous triumph of Burt Bacharach, who left us about a week and a half ago, and a good time to recognize the Frederick Loewe Foundation, which supports us, and he was also a great musician for Broadway. I bet they would have liked each other. Let us go to Act 2 of Promises, Promises, and again, Bacharach and David trying to shift the tone in the somewhat complicated show from humor into something more wistful and melancholy. And they write for me not only the most wistful and melancholy Christmas song you ever heard, but the most truthful. And here is Johnny Mathis, who recorded so many of Bacharach and David's songs in the popular arena.
Christmas Day is here and so are we. Time for children and presents and Christmas tree happiness. Christmas Day is all that it should be. Lights and carols and holly and all kinds of loveliness. Christmas bells ringing at the winterland and peace on earth. Everything they taught you when you were a child. The things a child once taught the world. If Christmas Day is really in your heart, you don't have to save up all your love to give once a year. Learn to give, try to live each day like Christmas Day. Christmas bells ringing at the winterland and peace on earth. Everything they taught you when you were a child. The things a child once taught the world. If Christmas Day is really in your heart, you don't have to save up all your love to give once a year. Learn to give, try to live each day like Christmas Day.
Sometimes your eyes look blue to me, although I know they're really green. I kindly or treated meanly from moment to moment. You're two different people, faithful and warm when you're in my arms, but then when you leave, you're so untrue. But however you are, deep down, whatever you are, whoever you are, I love you. Sometimes I feel you're mine alone, but then I'm sure it's just not so. I get this feeling on my own after I've learned if you're staying or if you're going from moment to moment. You're two different people, someone I know as the one I love or the one I wish I never knew. But however you are, deep down, whatever you are, whoever you are, I love you. Sometimes your eyes look blue to me.
That was Bobby Short singing a great ballad from Promises, Promises. One rarely gets to hear a man sing that song. I think it's rather poignant, coming not only in Bobby Short's voice, but of course he accompanied himself on piano. And again, this wistful, smart, very innovative way of revealing character in a Broadway musical. Well, Promises, Promises was a big hit. It ran for over 1,200 performances. And Bacharach said, great, fine, thanks. I never want to do another Broadway musical again. Just too much work and too much inconsistency. And he was famously driven crazy when David Merrick, the producer, called him from New York. And Bacharach answered the phone in Palm Springs. And Merrick told him that Richard Rodgers saw the show the night before, and there were 7 substitute performers in the orchestra, including the drummer. And you heard how important drumming is to the time signatures in Bacharach's score. And he said, that's it. My idol went to see my show, and it probably didn't sound very good or as good as he had hoped. So the lack of control was something that he threw his hands up with. It was his last Broadway show, but not his last narrative musical. That was the famous or infamous 1973 film Lost Horizon, also known as Lost Investment, because it was a big bomb and it was a sort of bad coda to the movie musical bonanza of the 1960s. But in the Larry Maslon dictum, bad writers can write bad material and they can write good material, but good writers always write something interesting. Here is Bacharach himself with the title number, performing as he often did as a recording artist, the title number to Lost Horizon. Well, for Lost Horizon, Bacharach and David had the same assignment they had on Broadway, is to create interesting conflicts and stuff for narrative characters. This, of course, is the famous story of a group of stranded, I think in this, it was all sorts of different occupations, but a plane that's stranded in the Himalayas, and a group of very worldly people who come across Shangri-La, this great ennobled monastery where life goes at a slower pace. And here's a duet between two characters, a character who's from the outside world and a character who's been stuck in this monastery, as we find out, forever. And it's a great potato number, the kind of number you have to write two different viewpoints. I think very imaginatively done by Burt Bacharach and Hal David.
On the list of the things that I will not miss, first of all is noise.
On the list of the things that I will not miss is peace and quiet.
I would like to try it.
Different people look at life from different points of view. If you really want the things I have, just help yourself. I give it all to you.
On the list of the things that I will not miss, I would mention crowds.
On the list of the things that I will not miss is open spaces.
Why can't we change places?
Different people look at life from different points of view. If you really want the things I have, just help yourself. I give it all to you.
On the list of the things that I will not miss, I would mention work.
On the list of the things that I will not miss is contemplation.
Sounds like a great vacation.
Different people look at life from different points of view. If you really want the things I have, just help yourself. I give it all to you. Different people look at life from different points of view. If you really want the things I have, just help yourself. I give it all to you.
On the list of the things that I will not miss, most of all is rain.
On the list of the things that I will not miss is too much sunshine.
Can there be too much sunshine?
Different people look at life from different points of view. People look at life from different points of view. If you really want the things I have, just help yourself. Where yours, I give it all to
Question me and answer bright and clear. I will answer with a question clear and bright. Even though your answer may be wrong, my question will be right. Question me and answer. Answer with a question.
1492.
What's the year that Babe Ruth hit his 60th home run?
Wellington and Waterloo.
Who became the hero at the Battle of Bull Run? Learning can be lots of fun. Question me and answer bright and clear. I will answer with a question clear and bright. Even though your answer may be wrong, my question will be right. Question me and answer answer with a question.
Midnight Ride of Paul Revere.
What's the way that Yankee Doodle really went to town?
Cleaning up the atmosphere.
What's the reason London Bridge is always falling down? You can learn things from a clown. Question me and answer bright and clear. I will answer with a question clear and bright. Even though your answer may be wrong, my question will be right. Question me and answer. Answer with a question. On the good ship Lollipop.
How did Christopher Columbus sail upon the sea?
Underneath the circus top.
Where did Cleopatra get to be Mark Antony?
They say knowledge makes you free. just how I became an educated man. Question me an answer.
Answer with the question.
If you wanna know, if you wanna hear, if you wanna see, question me an answer.
That was Bobby Van as a transplanted song and dance man in Lost Horizon. A great, interesting song. I mean, very much in the Burt, you got to write a do-re-mi, you got to write a getting to know you kind of song with a lot of kids. And it's just inventive. And if you listen to it enough, I think you'll find it enchanting too. Well, we've come to the end of our Burt Bacharach show. It's, on one hand, I'm sad to only have one Broadway musical to share with you. On the other hand, I'm thrilled that it was Promises, Promises, such a great score. And we'll finish where we started with Promises, Promises. This is Jerry Orbach and Jill O'Hara from the Broadway cast. Supposedly, David Merrick wanted a big romantic number in the second act for those two characters. and Bacharach was in Boston, Massachusetts General Hospital with pneumonia. So he didn't get to write it until after he came out of the hospital to Hal David's lyrics, which are wonderful. And you'll hear that in the song itself. Well, it'd be hard for me to say that I fell in love with a composer more than I fell in love with Burt Bacharach. So we salute him and wonder if we'll ever fall in love quite that way again.
What do you get when you fall in love? A guy with a pin to burst your bubble. That's what you get for all your trouble. I never fall in love again. I'll never fall in love again. What do you get when you kiss a guy? You get enough germs to catch pneumonia. After you do, he'll never phone ya. I never fall in love again. I'll never fall in love again. Don't tell me what it's all about, 'cause I've been there and I'm glad I'm out of those chains that bind you. That is why I'm here to remind you. What do you get when you fall in love? You only get lies and pain and sorrow. So for at least until tomorrow, I'll never fall in love again. I'll never fall in love again.
What do you get when you give your heart? You get it all broken up and battered. That's what you get, a heart that's shattered. I'll never fall in love again. I'll never fall in love again. Don't tell me what it's all about, 'cause I've been there and I'm glad I'm out of those chains that bind you.
That is why I'm here to remind you.
What do you get when you fall in love? You only get lies and pain and sorrow. So for at least until tomorrow, I'll never fall in love again. I'll never fall in love again. I'll never fall in love again.
Well, where is the time all gone to? This is Larry Maslon here at Broadway to Main Street. Let's catch up next Sunday at 3.
There's so much more embracing still to be done, but time is racing. Oh, well, we'll catch up some other time.